Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back to the Daily Huddle. It's great to have you here. Today's conversation is all about giving you the scoop on big time growth strategies. We've got Ed Jarecki with us this morning. He's the go-to guy for making your business better, no matter the size of your business. Ed's here to break down how the big players make the moves and how you can do the same. We're talking about getting your business to punch way above its weight, making your team rock stars, and using tech to stay ahead of the game. So stick around and get on the edge of your seat as we take your business to the next level with some straight talk and real talk with my friend Ed Jarecki. Ed, good morning. Let's dive into this conversation. But before we go into that, you and I were bantering earlier, and we talked about knowing each other for almost 27 years now. So it's been a while. I'm so blessed to be a friend of yours, but I'd love the rest of the world to be blessed with you. Tell us a little bit about you and give us a kind of an little origin story. Share a bit about your journey into business coaching and what sparked your passion for helping small businesses.
As much as my passion started when I was actually in my late teens, early 20s, I'll start from the time that you and I met, Sorrel, somewhere around 1998, 1999-ish. And what we were working to do together at that point was develop a project management methodology and an overall PMO. I ran project management for Sears Credit, and we actually partnered with all of my colleagues across Sears to put that in place. And at the time, I've always been such a passionate person on positive change and helping organizations get to that next level. Sometimes, it's like having a tattoo across your forehead, so people just quit listening to you. You cannot any longer be the orator of that change. And so I had already partnered with you and your team to come in and support a lot of the project management efforts that we had going on. And you and I decided, you kind of led me down the path of putting together a capability maturity model approach. And we did an assessment across the organization, did some analysis, and ultimately were able to present that to Kevin Kelligan, who was the president of Sears Credit at that point, and all of his direct and indirect reports. And I don't know if you remember that meeting, Sir, but I think there was 26 people around.
We've just dated ourselves. We said
we have. Yeah. Yeah, well, Sears was actually a very large and viable organization. And so, that was an expression of the journey that I've been through my entire life. It's always been trying to drive that positive change, but also in partnership with those experts and people, that have capabilities beyond mine in various areas. And all of my colleagues, we could not have done that without all of my colleagues at Sears as well. But ultimately, we not only put in place that and got the president, who had told me previously that he didn't like project management, as too bureaucratic and wouldn't help his organization. He literally stood up and thanked us and supported everything that we did and said, this is the way we're doing everything, to his 26 direct and indirect reports. And from there, we were actually able to take it to the next level. And the overall Sears corporate headquarters at the time, somewhere around 8,000 people, on behalf of the entire almost 275,000 people in the organization, adopted that same approach and methodology. So that's been my career. That's how.
So that's been your career, and that you could say that that's foundational to who you are for small businesses right now. And I don't want the world to miss on my friend Ed, though. Tell us a little bit about your family, what that's like, what drives you, what gives you the freedom to be able to do what you're doing right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think one of those is the definition of success. It changes from the time that you're youthful and through all the different experiences along the journey. I've got a wonderful son. I've got a wonderful daughter. My daughter is a freshman at Iowa State. She's actually a troubled youth counselor. doing incredibly well, ultimately going into radiology. My wife, who's been by my side for over 40 years in total, over 38 years of marriage, she's been with me through my businesses and throughout my journeys. She actually supports everything that I'm doing. And so when I think about where I'm at and why I do this, it's really to help others. But that foundational support comes from my family, comes from my dear friends, etc. But my passion, my core passion about helping organizations succeed and helping people, more importantly, succeed in whatever their dreams are, it's never wavered. It's always been a part of me. And what I've tried to do is to blend that combination of people, process, technology, but most importantly, the culture that envelops that into a model that best fits that organization, those people, those groups, and helps elevate all of them to the next level.
Yeah, so here you are now. You are the owner and operator and principal consultant of Focal Point Coaching. Now, tell us a little bit about the journey that you take clients through. You've got this thing in mind that says, man, I want to give this away. I'm creating Focal Point Coaching. Here's what I'm giving away. What is it you're giving away? What is the journey you take your clients through? And from beginning to end, they come in one way and they emerge another way. What does that look like?
Well, those conversations always start first with the relationship, building that trust and credibility. But from there, starting to understand their business goals. And it's important to not only define those business goals, but to define them in a quantitative manner. But just as importantly is the passion. It's that person's dreams and where they're trying to get to. Because as we all know, those of us that have lived through these journeys, whether it's growing your career within a corporation or owning a business, it's not easy. It's never easy. So part of that is what gets us through those obstacles, those challenges, those tough times of the journey to enjoy the good times. And that's our passion. That's that constant North Star focus on what our dreams are. And our business goals might be sitting right with it and beside it, but understanding those. And then the next part of it is really about understanding where they're at today, where they're at relative to their business, where they're at relative to their personal being. In a lot of cases, and way too many cases, I find that work-life balance is a major issue. So on top of helping these organizations, and my focus areas are strategy, planning, and performance as a system. You can't develop a plan without having a strategy. You can't, manage the performance of your organization without having a plan. So that's kind of my core. And then out from there, it's what are all the legs needed in order to help that particular business owner go from where they're at to achieve their business goals and their personal dreams. And the way I do that is basically to customize those best practices in a way that best fits their business, their personal dreams, as well as what resonates with them. Because if they're not, if they really don't want to do something, or they don't want to do something in a certain way, they're not going to, and that's just going to bog down their journey.
So speaking directly to the Daily Huddle audience now, a group of small to medium-sized businesses, you come from the world of big corporate, big data, big tech. Could you give us an example of a strategy that typically is used in large companies, but that you've successfully tailored and implemented for small businesses? And how can small businesses take what big tech, big data, big companies do and apply it to themselves?
Well, it's the same basic principles. So earlier in 2023, I actually took a lot of the strategy, planning, and performance systems that I had developed and even put in place in some of my last positions that I'd held in corporate America. And I actually whittled those down into something that's much more bite-sized. If there's one thing I learned clearly as an instructor, as an executive within the higher education industry, it's that they don't move at the same pace that large corporations do. And so as much as I might have a vision that's, 10, 20 steps down the road, they only want to be able to take that in small bite-sized chunks one at a time. So staying just one, maybe two steps in front of them relative to planting those seeds and growing that capability. And so the question that I grappled with was, how do I bring this to small and mid-sized businesses that really, they don't, that complexity overwhelms them. They don't want to get into that. And so that's what I did. I brought it back down to very simplistic. What is a strategy? Well, it's really vision, mission, values, and goals. And the goals are SMART goals, strategically measured over whatever period of time they want to define their strategy. But by going through that process and keeping the strategy elements fairly straightforward and simple, it helps business owners start to rethink. Even if they had a business plan or a strategy before, it drives them to kind of rethink where they're at. And by, again, going to that North Star of what's their passion, it helps make sure that as they're developing that strategy, it also supports whatever their personal passion is. Same thing from the planning front, boiling it down, taking this huge complexity from multi-billion-dollar organizations and whittling that down into something, into a planning process that gets a small to mid-sized business focused on what they can handle realistically. And then the performance system. None of that works well without a good performance system to manage it. And so, in other words, am I making progress against those things that I said I was going to? And if not, why not? And what am I doing to change that? So it's very simple, boiled down into something that in a really short amount of time with the right focus, we can establish all three of those elements for a business and then figure out from there what are their tactical focus that they can start to employ to improve their leads, to improve their conversion rates, to improve their revenues, to manage their costs, et cetera.
So you're pretty big in technology too.
Yeah.
And now I want to ask you an implementation question for the audience here. If you had one piece of advice on technology, like, or a digital tool that you believe that every small to medium-sized business have to leverage right now, and why? What is that and why?
Well, I hate to beat the dead horse, but artificial intelligence is here and it's here to stay. And there are some very real considerations and risks and thoughtfulness that must go into it. But the first step is to growing that awareness, understand what those technologies are, understand where your industry is going with them, understanding how your competition is employing them, and look for ways to help it speed up, improve your overall operations, help it leverage it to help drive your customers and start to innovate and personalize your products or services with those needs. But it all starts with what's your process and leveraging AI to speed that up. Over the course of the past year, I'm an engineer in my heart and in my mind. I love to design, to create, to build, to make things better, to make the world better. Where I avoided like the plague was the sales and marketing side of business. I understand the concept of it, but I've had to learn it. Well, I'll tell you what, with everything that I've learned, I could not do what I do today without a large team or these tools that allow me to generate content, to generate my artistry, to create automated workflows for scheduling events, for follow-ups and things like that. These tools are absolutely incredible, and when put to good use, they can really enable a business or an organization. And there's a small window of opportunity for businesses to really to create a competitive advantage. After that, the use of these tools is going to be just keeping up with the competition. So I really encourage businesses to get out there today and start looking at what they can do with these tools.
So you mentioned these tools and you say AI specifically. You say if you're not taking advantage of AI now, you're going to be stuck behind and playing catch up. Now, in your business, you mentioned that you've implemented a whole bunch. Without a large team, there's stuff that you're able to do that you couldn't do alone, but that you're doing because you are leveraging these tools. Give us an example that can make it very tangible for those listening to say, you know what, I'm going to grab this one piece and I'm going to run with it and implement that in my business. What did you do? One thing that you did that actually gives you the opportunity to leverage technology in the way that you're talking about.
My automated note taker. I use a particular AI tool, And so instead of sitting there and writing notes on a yellow pad or in your iPad or whatever happens to be, let the note taker go through, records the session, and it does an amazing job. I'd say with 95 to 98% accuracy, come back with notes of that session. And I don't know about you, but I remember sitting in corporate meetings. I'd be scratching all over my yellow
There you
pad,
go.
and then I'd have to go in
Remember
my
the
office.
paper pads, 8.5 by 11, the yellow pads, right?
Then I'd have to go in my office and decipher everything that I just wrote. These new tools make that you get a job that takes an hour or more, and it takes it down to literally a few minutes.
Yeah. So
And
we've got a couple of minutes before we open it up for questions. This particular tool you just mentioned brings us to this point. If you were to name 3 to 5 capabilities and enablers just like that. So there's the note taker. What else can small businesses and entrepreneurs take advantage of that really magnifies their productivity and efficiency?
well, the chatbot, the 4.0s are really powerful. I just started using a new one, and the new one adds a layer of complexity that goes out and not only gives you a list of the citations and sources, but when you're asking it the question, it'll actually create the reference and define those citations right in the tool itself. And
Which
then
one is that you're using that has that capability?
this one is called NextChat AI. And like I said, I just started using this within the last week or so. Before that, I was using Chatbot AI. There's a lot of them out there. This one actually came with a small robot that I'm on the second round of getting. It's a personal robot assistant that actually organizes all of your applications and your flow, your phone apps, and things like that. I have not used it. I don't know exactly how it works yet, but it was, wasn't that much money, so I decided I'm taking the plunge on it. Uh, but
Yeah.
but
One
those
one
kit,
la-
go ahead, go ahead.
one last thing, Ed. When it comes to using AI and other tools that assist humans that way, uh, I've had this difficulty. Like, it's like, gosh, if I use AI to do X, Y, Z, that means I'm not working or I'm not smart enough or I'm going to lose my smarts. Do you deal with that? And what would you say to someone who's standing firm on, I'm a human being, I'm going to do it this way, I'm not going to use AI until I have to? What would you say?
At this point, general AI and the ability to complete full human intelligence doesn't exist. Will it someday? Probably. But right now, when you look at business or you look at even our personal lives, it's a mosaic of puzzle pieces that ultimately fit together. What the AI tools allow us to do is to create those puzzle pieces much more quickly. But that puzzle, that whole picture, still comes from us. It comes from our creativity, our innovation, our expertise, comes from collaborating with our colleagues, etc. And so there's still an immense amount of our own personal contribution into these things. All these tools are doing at this point is helping us get there more quickly. I think about the content that I write for my marketing, and these are all my messages. They're all from me, but the verbiage of those to be able to capture it in the right way, to be able to deliver those messages in meaningful ways to the audience, those tools can really provide great value and really speed that process up so that you can do more in less time, which is also one of those things that's happening out there. We've got to be able to do that because everybody that's
Everybody else is doing it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if everybody else is driving a car and you're insisting on keeping up with the horse and buggy, you're going to be left behind. So the message here, Ed, is that what used to be something that is only available to big companies is now being made widely available to small companies and at a very affordable price. Would you say that on average, what's the investment that a small to large to medium-sized business would need to make to secure the tech it needs to enable it in the way that you're talking about?
The chatbot you can get for as little as $60 a year. I think the one that I got my first year free, but it's like $200 a year after that. But it's got, about 4 or 5 times the power of the more traditional ones do. And when I'm talking traditional, less than a year old. So,
It's moving that fast, right?
yeah. Matter of fact, I
Yeah.
just read another article last night about PC-based AI tools, and those are going to be the next revolutionary step forward in all of this.
Did you say PC based?
Yeah. So they're going to be right on I own a Mac, not a PC, but yes, they'll be built within your operating systems of your desktop computers.
Yeah, in the same way that AI is filling in the blanks before you can think the word, it's thinking the next word for you. It's going to get to the point where maybe you put it in a mode, it thinks the next paragraph based on what you fed it. And
Yeah.
that's where we're headed.
Yeah. These latest tools, you can actually create a PDF with all the information, load it in, it'll review it, work to understand it, and then from that information, you can start asking questions. And that includes data analytic questions and stuff like that. Now, I have not played with how far it will go with that, but I have done a lot of downloads of PDFs that have a lot of information in them. And it does a pretty good job of discerning and answering my questions from the information provided within within those PDF docs.
Awesome. We've got a question. Let's bring Ronald in. Ronald, good morning. What's on your mind, brother?
Hey, good morning, guys. It's crazy that AI situation there. I want to ask you about plagiarism with in AI. I mean, everybody got the same source. Everybody's jumping on this, and I'm finding out a little bit. I mean, what do you think about policies and what's going into the market when it comes to people finding the same information for the same subject and delivering almost the same document? What's your take on that?
Well, I know that this is a major issue that many universities are grappling with from the
I'm
uses.
in one.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure there's a clear answer on that today. What I can say is when you're using this for business and when I'm using it for my different messages and stuff, there's usually 25 or 30 different citations and little different pieces and parts. Are you using that, just pulling it and using it? Are you refining it? What's the message? How are you employing it? I think those are all considerations that ultimately this is going to work itself out. And how it does within our legal system, within society, within our business systems, I don't know. And it's going to be really interesting because I think the universities themselves are going to be a big part of helping figure out answers to that question. But today, even with my artistry, I wonder if, where it's all coming from and how those pieces. And what I can tell you that from my perspective, what I do is I customize it to what's in my head, my vision, and leverage it from there. So is there an element of plagiarism in that? There's no clear definition on what that would be or how you would actually identify it. So I think there's still a lot of conversation. Back in the early 2000s, we got hit with identity theft. And the relevance of that is simply this. That was a whole new level of cyber tech that was being used out there to take advantage of people. When we tried to engage our legal system to help us with that, they didn't know what to do or how to do it. I later watched a show on old FBI files, and I watched a specific show that was shortly after the time where we had our experience, and all of a sudden this came to the understanding of the FBI and our government. Since then, they've enacted laws and they've got teams out there that are focusing on cyber criminal. But it's a learning process to go through that. And this is exactly where we're at today with these newest technologies. I don't think anybody has fully figured that out. But at the same time, can we afford just to stay idle? These business owners cannot. Otherwise, the separation between these big organizations that can employ large dollars, large resources, are going to eat these small and mid-sized business owners' lunch. So they must understand and leverage to the degree that they can these technologies.
Yeah,
Got
thank
it.
you for the question, Ronald.
Yeah.
And Ed, I think this question from Ronald really gives us the opportunity to wrap it all up into this bow, right? The human aspect of starting, running, and growing a business doesn't go away. Your focal point coaching business and other businesses like it can support small to medium-sized businesses with creating what's foundational to any business: your vision, your mission, your strategic plan, and your core values, and the plans to achieve those strategies, right? And what you're pointing to is that once you've got that, you cannot get around using technology to enable you, to make you faster, to make you more productive in implementing those plans. But those plans are yours.
That is correct.
So you mentioned plagiarism, Ronald. So I'm thinking in the world of business, you're using the technology, you're using AI to implement what you say. So it's coming from you. And I think the same may be feasible in academia, where it's your ideas and your thinking and your research, and now you're using the tool to make the end result faster. So we don't know where we're going, but we know we have to use technology.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. I worked for a higher education institution for over 16 years between my teaching and my management work. And I'm guessing that more than just the university that I work for, there's a lot to figure out around this. So everything you said, I agree with, Sorrel, but solving that problem relative to how do you grade papers? How do you think about the PhD and dissertations and stuff like that? Yes, there's these student candidates have to create this, but there's a line there. Where is that line and how do you manage it? And that's going to be a big question.
And Tara's got a comment in the chat. Tara, would you like to join us and say it out loud?
I have pushed back on AI for a while, but my husband has an electric bike and I don't. And he arrives faster than I do every time. He can go farther. He can get just as much of a workout as I can, but he gets to go farther in a shorter period of time. So when I equate it to that, I embrace it. Ed, I am really grateful for this conversation. I sent you a personal message in the chat about a company that I'm partnering with. And I just want you, when you have time, take a look at it. If you want to learn more, it's right up your alley.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will do that.
I love that analogy, Tara. Yeah, the electric bike goes faster. You get just as much of a workout, but there's still that little thing. When are you going to get an electric bike?
I don't know that I'm going to. Yeah, no, I don't know about that, but I equate it to that for sure. I'll tell you, my husband's more intelligent than I am. We'll leave it at that. I'm just a little bit more stubborn.
Thank you, Tara. Well, time flies on the Daily Huddle, Ed. I want to round it out with you with one last question. So for entrepreneurs and business owners listening today who feel somewhat overwhelmed by the pace of change that you mentioned earlier, things are moving so fast, right? Chat GPT will, with the large learning language models, will publish a new version in 2 weeks, right? So for those who feel overwhelmed by the pace of change and competition, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to stay ahead and keep growing in the vein of this conversation?
If you're a person that has not used AI at all, start with a chat bot. And when you've got a question, ask it a question. Just start dabbling with it. And if you follow, a similar journey that I did, you just start asking it more questions, deeper questions. Some of these chatbot tools have the ability to go to around 30 questions deep. So what you've got a topic and you can just start layering your questions on it. So just start with your first question and then move on to the second question. And as you get used to that tool, other opportunities, other tools out there that can aid you, they'll start to expose themselves. And if you have any questions, shoot me a message. I am happy to help you along that journey.
Awesome. Ed, thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing me.
having taken the time to share with us that as AI moves forward and as you move forward, we'll definitely come back here on the Daily Huddle to say, here's the next thing now. You know, beyond asking it a few questions, what's the next thing? We always end the show with our 8 tenets, Ed, and I want to share them with you because over the course of the past 27 or so years, those are the things we've shared. You know, we've shared our love for our friendship and each other's family. So love, folks. We've shared many laughs about ourselves, about the circumstances around our work. So folks, laugh out loud. Life can be very serious, but it doesn't have to be. Stress less. Eat mostly plant-based, and Ed and I and Giovanni would advise you to have a hamburger every now and then. Give, folks, give. Sleep a lot. You know, 8 hours is good, but anything lower than 5, you start being cranky. Move, and last but not least, if you've got an assumption and you want to check it, go to a chatbot and say, hey, what do you think about this? I'm thinking that. Should I? And see what it says. So yes, do check your assumptions. And now you don't have to do it alone. That's our show for today, folks. Ed, thank you for being here. Everyone, thank you for joining us. The Daily Huddle is on every single weekday from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., 30-ish, right? On Monday through Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.
Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love you all. Have a great
Ed.
day.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Daily Huddle family.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right,
Same
Ed.
to you. Same to you. Same to you, Ed.
Thank you.
Peace and blessings, my brother.
So we'll catch up next week.
You bet.